Hi everyone, welcome to another brand new episode of the Outlier Podcast. I've got Adam with us today. Hi Adam, how are you doing?
Good. How about you, Anurag? I'm doing great.
Can't complain. It's Friday, right? It's almost
It's a
there.
good day.
It's a
A
good
good
day,
day.
Friday, sunny day, waiting for the week to end and jump onto the weekend. That's what my Friday is. By the way, uh, to let everyone know, I think I had to wait 3.5 months for Adam to get into the podcast, right?
I knew that
It
was going to come up, Anurag. My apologies.
It wasn't easy, guys, but still, okay, finally we have him. So, who is Adam, right? You can probably see in the logo of the t shirt that he's wearing, he's from Royal Credit Union. Adam is the CTO of Royal Credit Union, been in the institution for more than 2 decades. So, you can think of Adam. You can think of me being in the next 20 years I'll be someone like an Adam, right? He
Yeah.
is similarly he's a computer engineer, like me, who didn't want to just sit on a desk and code. 3 decades back he joined the technical ecosystem altogether. He worked for a couple of years for insurers, then moved to healthcare, and finally found his home at Royal Credit Union in 2001. That's almost 25 years. So that's pretty much about Adam. He runs a multifaceted transformation team out there in Royal focused on technology. Adam, I might miss a couple of things here and there. If I do, please feel free to add.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. No, I think you captured it pretty good, Anurag. I've been a Royal honestly, I'm just shy of 25 years. So I found my home back in 2001 when I truly understood what the credit union movement was, which is really focused about people helping people. Once you get involved, man, you get hooked. You get hooked. It's a wonderful feeling to work for such an impactful organization.
Absolutely. I think all of us drink the credit union Kool-Aid once in life and then get addicted to it. You just cannot leave it, right? That's what happened
Right.
to all of us. Let's start the show with one question. So, Adam, I mean, I've seen you firsthand working, right? Juggling things, getting things done. So, what keeps you going?
And I've talked a couple times, and going back to the conversation on being an engineer and that, although I enjoy the technical aspect of my job, and like a lot of majority of technology folks, I like to tinker. I like to understand how things work. I like to tear them apart, put them back together, figure out how I can make it better. But it really comes down to impact, Anurag. And when you think of the credit union movement and knowing that the work that we do directly impacts the financial well-being of our members, and by that extension, our communities, is incredibly motivating. I see the events that we put on, the events we're a part of. I see our frontline staff working with our members. I see our interactions on our digital channels, helping members achieve their goals of maybe home ownership, their first vehicle, maybe a business starting off. And honestly, it's that impact that keeps me going. Everything we do is in effort or in essence meant to make someone's life easier, more secure, or for them to feel more empowered.
I mean, absolutely rightly captured. I mean, when I came to the country years back, right? So it was a credit union who gave me my first credit card. So I think that's the point when I understood about impact. I was not even working with credit unions, right? So you captured it really well. Adam, moving on to your journey, right? So do you want to talk about your journey in your own words? What has been your journey so far?
Yeah. So like I kind of alluded to a little bit. So my first degree actually was in programming, and I did that for about 8 to 10 months. But I didn't enjoy being kind of parked behind a desk all day long. And because I was newer out of education, I had the opportunity to build a network for an insurance company here in the Eau Claire area, where I learned just so much. Everything from setting up email servers to you know not only Exchange as an example, but SQL servers, domain controllers, everything. And I really got some really good firsthand knowledge and working experience in building out a network, which I really, really enjoyed. Also allowed me to be a little more mobile, go around and talk with people a little bit. As time went on, though, I realized that going back to that impact discussion earlier is that I found that I felt the most sense of accomplishment when I could impact through the action of others, right? And that's where leadership comes in, right? And although in my earlier part of my career, I liked being the answer person, right? The person that people go to when they need something, it became even more empowering for me when I could build out a team that had different skills than myself, different strengths than myself, to help solve the problems or take advantage of opportunities for our customers, or in this case at Royal, not for 24 years, our membership. So for me, it came down to how can I tie, and I become the most engaged when I can tie our technical work to member outcomes. You know, our culture at Royal has evolved into building culture where technology is a partner. You know, it's not just a tool, and our goal is always centered around member trust and service.
I think the way how you talk about tying mission to the final impact, I think that's the most important thing, right? That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, Talking about, I want to ask you about the evolving role of a CTO, right? I mean, you've been in the forefront of technology leadership of credit unions like almost for 2.5 decades now, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you see the role of a CTO evolving in the space?
Yeah, I think it's been evolving over the last probably 5 to 10 years. You know, the focus for credit unions for years was always kind of building out your technology kind of in house, and having control over everything, and you know, focus really around operations and infrastructure, which is still critically important. I want to be very clear about that. You know, that's one of the foundational items for trust with our membership, is providing services that are reliable and secure. But as time has gone on, the CTO's role is more around translation, um, focusing on innovation and introducing new technologies that are truly impactful and meaningful, and truly becoming trusted business partners with our peers in the organization, and also across the credit union industry. Right, as you know, the credit union industry is a little bit different than others in that we often talk with our competitors, share information, understand how we can always focus on that overriding principle of people helping people, and we do that as a community.
Yeah.
You know, what I found is that we find the most amount of success, Anurag, with that is when we bring non-technical folks on board early when we're looking at a technological initiative or project, so that we truly get that alignment with the people and not just processes, and again, really focused on that, you know, outcome. So really around business enablement opposed to you know, a utility.
I mean, that's the reason, right? I mean, all of us do stick to the creative union movement. We can do a bunch of other things, but there's a reason behind it. We still stick back over here and do it every single day because we believe in the mission of people helping people, Adam. And
Yeah.
that's absolutely. Now, as you know, right, you know, technology is changing. It's evolving so fast, right? I mean, 3 years back, there was no, I mean, generative AI was there, but there was no democratic use of generative AI. I mean, people started
Mhm.
talking about AI after OpenAI actually launched ChatGPT, right? They talked about LLMs.
Right.
LLMs were there long back, but things are changing so fast. Every single month, there's a new update that's coming in. So, how do you balance, you know, speed neck innovation? It's changing so much. Innovation with, I would say, security and compliance, because running a financial institution, the second has to be on the epitome of it, right? So, how do you
Yeah.
look at it? That
Yeah. So for us, you know, Anurag, it comes down to, you know, we treat our partners in risk and compliance and our security teams as collaborators right from the beginning. You know, they're not just a group of people that we check a box, right? The goal here
Yep.
is never to just check a box. It's meant to truly deliver a solution that has impact, but still maintains a level of security and risk and compliance that we need to protect our member. Because trust is the hardest thing to earn and the easiest thing to lose, Anurag. And that's why we always need to have and keep it in mind. So from us, it's really baking it in from the get-go, right? We regularly engage our information security officer, our risk officer as well, and make sure that from the beginning we're, you know, looking at a pilot as an example, understanding where is our data, how is this impacting our data, where's the information stored, what are the mitigating controls that are in place to protect information, you know, because that's job one. Anurag, it comes down to maintaining that trust. So we do it from the get go, you know, and I think like a lot of credit unions, you learn that as you go sometimes, because sometimes it can feel like it's slowing things down. But if you get people involved from the get go and make them part of that process, there's also a certain stake in ownership that comes too, right? Where people feel bought in, right? Opposed to being like, hey, our information security officer, by the way, we've already done this. Can you take a look? If you get them involved from the get-go, often they can also give you ideas on maybe looking at some alternatives as well, because they're very talented people as well. They're also people, although they focus on security and compliance, they're also, in many cases, technology folks or people that have a drive for continuous improvement, and they want to make things better as well.
Absolutely. I mean, me knowing the Royal team firsthand, I can vouch for it, right? That you guys are into it on get-go itself. I mean, I can be the
Yeah.
flag bearer of your certificate, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Adam, we've been talking about, I mean, personally, we've been talking about data and AI for some time now. Still, I mean, I want to let the world know, right? So, how are you using right now data and AI for a couple of things? One is improving better member experience and streamlining operations, because there are 500 different things that you can do, but member experience is the most important, and running efficient operations is important. So, how are you using data and AI for that?
Yeah. So, AI in many facets is kind of the evolution of analytics, right? AI is built on data. Data is the foundational concept behind it. So it's really an evolution there. And one of the things that we're doing, and I'll probably mention it a couple times, is obviously looking for personalized experience and improving our operational efficiency, as you said. But one of the things that we're also looking at is how do we leverage AI and data to better understand our members. Our members still come into our branches, Anurag, and we get to know them and we know their names and we talk to them regularly. But it's not like it used to be, 15 years ago, to where you'd see people on a regular basis. So now our members tell us their story through their data, right? Their transactions, what they do, what things that they spend their time and money on. And, as an example, we're actually doing a pilot right now of an AI platform, and actually some homegrown AI coding that we're doing, where we've actually partnered with the UW system here in Wisconsin, and we have interns from 3 different universities that are working with our analytics team on building out machine learning models around things like membership churn, things around next best product, also things like fraud, right? All things that, yes, the experience is important and we always want to drive towards that, but also thinking about, as an example, next best product. How can we get in front of our members at those significant life events to where they don't have to think, hey, I need to reach out to Royal Credit Union. Royal Credit Union is thinking about me and thinking about my best interests, and they're being proactive. And it's not just us sending them, a blanket marketing message about, hey, buying a car. It's around, maybe if you have a child around 16 years old, that's when we're reaching out to you. Or maybe they're hitting 18-year-old and talking about maybe some sort of personal line of credit is looking to look in further at their education. So, we're really excited about the work that we're doing with students, but I'll talk a little bit about that further on too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we've been talking about that, right? So that's very exciting, having actual AI use cases, doing pilots and seeing the value out of it, and then rolling it full scale. That's the way how you guys are doing the perfect work, right? Now, a bit unconventional question, but I want to still ask you some hard questions, right? That there are, for the lack of better words, legacy systems. I'm not naming any of them because all of them are my friends, so I cannot name legacy systems. I'm like, I know all of you are my friends. My question is, talking about legacy systems always try to, for the lack of better words, slow you down, right? Slow you down for integration with fintechs, etc. But in terms of, I would say, mindset, right? I think what mindset change that needs to come in to break free from the legacy way of thinking and remain competitive, because Adam, I tell this to every single one, that today we are not competing with a Chase, we are not competing with a City, we are competing with a Spotify or Amazon or a Netflix. Because I start my day looking at TikTok or a Spotify and gives me the exact recommendation that I want. I expect my financial institution to serve something like that, because I mean, I'm 31, 32. People in 20s, they're even scarier. They're like, I don't even talk to you. I mean, I don't have time for that. Right. So how do you change that mindset to break free and still remain competitive?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there, Anurag, and I think you make some good points. One, when you talk about who we're measured against, it's not the other credit union down the street from Royal. that's there, but it is especially for those that are more technologically native. They are comparing us against Amazon and Apple, and that's where one of those mindsets we need to get away from. And I think the credit union is getting better at this, or the credit union industry as a whole, is that in the past we always felt like we had to have everything within our walls, right? Everything in-house. We need to develop the in-house staff, right, to do every different facet around operations or technology. And that's not the case, because as you think about it, we do certain things very well, and that's focused around our mission, right, and our values, and really making sure that we're maintaining our positive impact in the lives that we touch.
Yep.
And we do that through interactions. We do that through reach out. We do that in communications with our membership. And anything that takes away from our ability to do that really slows us down. So when I think about it, it's all focused around leveraging partners, leveraging those that are people that have expertise in a particular domain, and taking that to its fullest. Anurag, you and I have talked about things and looked at leveraging different partnerships, and that's what we're doing here. We're trying to gain experience, one, outside the credit union industry, but two, also experience that people have. If we're looking at putting a new system in, yes, we put in systems regularly, but we may only put in a new loan origination system in every 10 to 15 years. You want to leverage a partnership with someone that does that on a regular basis and knows the ins and outs and the pitfalls and the best practices to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible, because you want that to be as transparent for the member as possible. I think the credit union industry, another example of that is cloud adoption. I think there was a lot of, and probably still is in some cases, some reluctance there, but it's something that we found a lot of benefit in flexibility and taking our focus away from operations and more on business enablement. It allows us to, how can we make things better opposed to how are we keeping the lights on, right? How are we doing business as usual? How are we truly making our credit union better for our membership?
Fair enough. I mean, all points talked about is fair enough. And you don't want partners whom you will experiment with. You need people who've done it for years, for multiple other, with organizations, not only for credit unions, but outside credit unions, outside the financial services ecosystem, because that's very important, right? Interesting.
Yeah.
Talking about digital right now, digital is becoming like table stakes. I mean, it takes like what, 2.5 to 3 minutes for me to go to Chime and open a checking account. I'm based out of New York, and I definitely feel more comfortable, working with a fintech. It's very quick, right? I mean, for me, what is FI? For me, an FI is a place where I can transfer my money as easy as possible. I don't care anything about, right? So there's a good group of people like us who need, speed and scale and fast. So for people like us, I mean, definitely Royal is doing a bunch of things for, I would say, for digital transformation, right? So to talk about a digital initiative at Royal that actually had a meaningful impact, or something that is on the motion right now, you believe that it will be really valuable?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple. One, we moved to a new loan origination system for our mortgage department here in the past 12 months, 18 months. And that one was focused, a majority of it, around that experience for our membership, exactly what you're talking about, making it as frictionless as possible so that when our members are making, to be frank, one of the, if not the most important financial decisions in their life of purchasing a home, we don't want them to dread that. We want them to make sure it feels smooth. We feel like they feel that they can trust us, that it is intuitive, that is not asking for the same information multiple times, right? We want to get to that fluidity within the process where people think of it as, oh yeah, it was an afterthought. I applied for a loan. It was easy. It's not even something that comes to mind. It was so easy to do business with Royal Credit Union that I don't even think about the process I went through. They were great. I worked with them. They reached out to me. We got things done. I'm in my new home. We want our membership focused more on life and their events and what they enjoy versus a process or a procedure or a technology to get them where they need to go, right? People don't live or dream of applying for a mortgage loan, Anurag. That's not what they look for. They're looking for home ownership. How do we improve that experience? And that's what we did when we looked at our mortgage LOS. On the flip side of that, and speaking to deposits, which, your commentary about I want somewhere to put my money where I can move things in and out easily is spot on, is we're actually looking at our, in the middle of a project for our deposit account opening process, which is both digital and eventually will be in our branch as well. And that one is also all focused around that speed, right? That intuitiveness, how can we make it as easy as possible for someone to establish a relationship with World Credit Union and move on to what really matters to them, right? To your point, get the account created, establish that relationship, build that trust, and our focus is all around making that process as easy as possible.
I mean, absolutely right. Now, my next thing, one of my favorite things is talking to CTOs about questions like buy versus build, because I love having the conversation, right? So my question is with the pace of fintech, right? It's moving really, really fast. How do you decide if whether you want to buy, build, or partner? Because these are three different things.
Yeah. So, first thing you always need to think about is what are we trying to solve? What is the opportunity at hand, and what are we trying to solve for? And to be frank, it comes down, do we feel we can do it better than anyone else? Can we add value if we take complete ownership of that? Or can we partner, especially when you look at things like AI tools, can we partner with a third party that has deep domain experience in this, and not just for credit unions, but for outside industries, and leverage that expertise, right? There's some cases where you just flat out buy, right? Where it makes sense. It's something off the shelf that you don't need a lot of customization behind. Those are maybe a little easier, but I think credit unions are moving more and more towards that partnership model, Anurag, and building out good, strong relationships with innovators, technology partners, to offer that. When you mentioned earlier we're compared against the Amazons of the world and such, the budget that they have for technology is even a little bit bigger than ours. And that's why we want to leverage partnerships with fintechs to make sure that, if we get someone really good in that domain, we focus on it. That's something well worthwhile to have a partnership with, so we can offer the best experience possible.
Absolutely. Just to give you a point of reference, the annual technology spend of JP Morgan Chase is $15 billion. That's not even a set size of one of our largest credit unions, right? So we are competing against those guys, right?
Exactly.
So cannot shy away from thinking, let's do BAU, whatever we are doing. Unless we disrupt, these guys will come and disrupt. They are in our backyard, right? It's not easy, for sure.
Exactly.
Now, my next thing would be across forming a team, right? Now, you've been building teams like forever, for almost 3 decades now. But hiring a credit union is very unique. It's not like a consulting company like EXL or other firms. I'm just naming EXL because, we get good people.
Yeah.
What I meant by that is hiring at a credit union is much more nuanced because it's very mission driven. And it's not easy to hire the best of best tech talent into a credit union, right? So what do you look for in a tech talent while hiring that person in your team?
I've learned over my career, an important lesson. And, for me, Anurag, in a lot of cases, technical skills can be taught. People inherently want to learn and be better at what they do. But it really comes down to, I want to find people that are looking to do meaningful work, right? They don't want to just build cool stuff, right? Years ago, I interviewed someone that asked more around what our impact was in our community and our even our region as a whole than necessarily around our technology stack. And that told me so much, right? This individual is trying to understand. They were demonstrating curiosity, empathy, and trying to understand how they could make an impact to our membership. And like I said, technical skills in many cases can be taught. A sense of mission and ownership, man, that's something someone either has or they don't. So I really focus on that culture, that cultural fit for us in as an organization, a strong desire to make a meaningful impact.
I think both of us share that vision because both of us are engineers who figured out we don't want to do core engineering but want to get things done, right? I think that mission
Right.
focus same, Adam. When I hire a data scientist from the market, I have two options: getting a data scientist from one of the Ivy Leagues who's a PhD, or getting a data scientist who has worked for banks for 5 years and have done things, right? I'll be very
Yeah.
wrong to say that the first, I don't know, hire the first, but the second really fits well into the ecosystem, right? The culture.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
another thing what I've seen, even I leading teams, there's a separate set of people who are meant for credit unions. My team who is working with credit unions only work with credit unions. It's a culture
Yeah.
thing. That's what we talked about.
It
Absolutely.
absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I think it is a lesson that we all learn over time. I think, you know,
Absolutely.
a lot of focus is put on technical skills or what what are their credentials, what was their education, where did they come from, and I think we've all gotten battle scars and hiring someone based on paper opposed to you
All
know
of us.
right, maybe what they really are all about. So great question.
Just for time, Adam, one last question, right? I know we are on top of the hour, but
Yeah.
one last question is, uh, if you talk about or pick one disruptive technology that you think will shape the future of community banking as a whole, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna do the easy one. I'm sure the one that everyone's talking about, right? It's all around artificial intelligence, and it's not just for credit unions. It's not. It simply is not. But I want to explain a little bit more about that because I had the privilege of attending a conference put on a couple months ago by Members Development Company, where I got to see a gentleman, Gary Golden, speak, where he talked about artificial intelligence and you know the speed at which it is evolving now, and what we are seeing today is child's play to what it's going to look like in the next 18 to 24 months. And another thing that he talked about, which really resonated with me, I think a lot of people are using Copilot, ChatGPT, Grok, all the different language models, but they're using it to produce information, ask questions, understand a subject better, right? That's all great. And I use it for that too. Not gonna lie, man, I love it. But one of the things that I found most eye-opening and really has changed my mindset is Gary talked about treating AI like a peer, treating it like a colleague, maybe even a coach, right? Don't just ask it to give you information or create a PowerPoint or a document for you or an outline. Propose your ideas and ask for its opinion. Ask where your blind spots are. Am I looking at this from the wrong angle? And it's not going to necessarily give you the right answer, but it's going to get you to reason more. It's going to get you beyond that first thought, right? And that's one of the definitions of innovation is moving beyond your first reaction or thought to either a opportunity
Yep.
or to a challenge. And innovation happens when you think beyond that first one or two steps. So that's what I found incredibly, encouraging and invigorating for me is using, things like ChatGPT and Copilot to push myself, right? What are there other perspectives? Ask good questions like if I'm going to have an interview with Anurag about this, what are some things we want to talk about, right? And it's those types of things that gets me thinking, right? And thinking, okay, how can I approach this from a different manner? And nothing's better for the business than thinking outside of our normal process, right? Because a lot of us have been in the industry for a long time. People tend to move around in the credit union industry. We all think pretty similar, but if I can get beyond that first or second thought, that's where magic happens.
Adam, this was great. So again, summing up the entire interview. So it was one of the insightful ones. Usually I do not go beyond 21 minutes, but we had so many things to talk about, so many insightful conversation that I actually went beyond 20 minutes. It's actually 30 minutes right now. This is one
Yeah.
of the great interviews, Adam. And again, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you coming onto the show.
Oh, of course. And again, my apologies that it took so long, Anurag. I appreciate your patience, and I really enjoyed it. And thanks for making the time for me again.
Absolutely. Thank you.